Oh, welcome to Let's Talk. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, on this warm Friday afternoon. But this is my kind of weather, y'all. Okay, maybe not 90 degrees. I'll take it though. I will take it. And I'm going to enjoy this for as long as I can. I just hope that you all can stay cool. But I'm loving this. Anyway, welcome to the show, publisher of the Washington Informer. And I want to thank you for tuning in today because we have a great show planned as we celebrate Homeownership Month and Black Music Month. And we're going to give a shout out. I'm doing it now, a shout out to congratulate all of the 2026 graduates of this season. But we have a special graduate with us today, and I am so excited about the class of 2026. I don't know if you all know this, but I'm telling on myself. I walked with the 2026 graduating class from Howard University just a month ago. And I did that because it was my class's 50th anniversary. I graduated from Howard undergrad in 1976, and the class of 1996 walked with the class of 2026. And I don't even remember my graduation from 1976. I know I was there. I know it was cold. I don't know who the speaker was, but this graduation will go down in memory. If I ever write that book, you all will read about it. It was an amazing experience. I want to thank Howard University for how they do this to bring uh, classes back on this momentous moment and to be a part of that. So, anyway, congratulations to the class of 2026. Joining us today on Let's Talk are Julienne Joseph, Senior Vice President of Single Family Programs at the DC Housing Finance Agency. We also have Cameron Poles, Chief Dot Connector at Black Alley Band. Going to do a little go-go today and talk about more than that because Black Alley and what Cameron does in the community is much more than just the music itself. And the 2026 Spelman College valedictorian and DC native, Alyssa Richardson, and her mom, Dr. Hazel Richardson, a managed care pharmacist, entrepreneur, and community leader dedicated to advancing health, education, and wellness. So now we'll give Alyssa all of her credit, but mom poured a lot into her, I guess, because she had a lot to pour into her. But anyway, the both of them are going to be with us during the show. So really look forward to talking to both of them and all of our guests. So before we do that, some quick news. The National Negro League baseball game, let me say that again. The National Negro League baseball game will take place at Nat Stadium here in Washington, D.C., over in Southeast, on June 16th. The Washington Informer will have 100 tickets to give away, but you must read and watch. Read the Washington Informer and watch us here on Let's Talk in order to get a special invitation. We will also host a panel discussion on the Negro Leagues, which will be hosted by yours truly, which will be a part of the invitation. So we ask you to read the Washington Informer, pick up a copy. You can email us if you want to email us and say you want a special invite. Email us at news@Washington Informer, and in the subject matter, I'm going to say I wanted to say count me in, but anyway, put National Negro League in the subject matter, and we will make sure that we send an invitation to you. There's a process you have to go through when you're dealing with the stadium and tickets and what have you. So we have to, in order for you to participate, we need your email address. For the first, I think it's 20,000 people that attend that game, they will get a replica jersey from the Negro Leagues, the Homestead Grays, which was our local team. You'll get a jersey. But if you sign up uh, to attend through the Washington Informer, you get a jersey anyway. So we hope that you will do that. And we certainly look forward to seeing you. I love baseball. I mean, I remember going to baseball games at RFK with my daddy when I was a little girl. And so I still love the game. And I would love to share this night with you. Remember, that's June 16th. Pick up this copy or next week's copy of the Washington Informer, but also send us an email. Let us know you want to be our guest at this game, and send it to news@washingtoninformer.com, and we'll make sure we send an invitation to you. And we'll see you at the ball field. We also want to let you know that our annual home ownership issue will be out on stands next week, and the coveted district tax sale supplement will be published in the Washington Informer on Thursday, June 18th. So we got a lot going on because, as I said earlier, this is Black Music Month. This is National Home Ownership Month. We've got hundreds and hundreds or thousands of young people graduating from, I'm speaking at a 5th grade graduation next week. So kids and young adults graduating from colleges and universities and schools all across the country. So we're going to acknowledge them during the show. It's a lot going on. So that you don't miss it, pick up your copy of this week's issue of the Washington Informer at a newsstand near you. Or you can pull up the digital edition online by visiting our website at washingtoninformer.com. Just go to the website, and there you will see a little button which will allow you to subscribe to our digital edition. And all we ask for is your email address. You'll see that graphic or a graphic similar to that. All we ask for is for your email address. Put that in there, and voila, you become a part of the Washington Informer family. And we so deeply want you to be a part of our family because we have an amazing team of writers and reporters and photographers, all kinds of folks, small group, small but mighty, that do our job to try to keep you informed and inspired and educated and empowered. That's our job. So become a part of the family and let us work for you. You know, you can find us on many platforms. We're on Facebook, IG, X, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please push subscribe. Or if you come back and watch later, which we hope that you will, because if you go to Washington Informer TV, you'll see all the shows that we've been producing and some of the stories that we've been covering in the community right there. So in order to get them into your email or your social feed, please subscribe. Now let's welcome our first guest, Julienne Joseph. We are going to be talking about the DC Housing Finance Homeownership Fair and how, which is coming up really soon, and how it helps families achieve home ownership. Julienne, welcome to Let's Talk.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Denise. We're so excited to join you.
Oh gosh, I am excited for you to join us. As I mentioned, we're going to do our annual national or local home ownership issue next week. We're so grateful that DC HFA is a partner and a sponsor for that, and so we just had to have you on to talk about more of what you all are doing. So let's talk about that. You're having a home ownership fair on June 13th at the Martin Luther King Memorial Library. Let's talk about that.
Yes, we are so excited. And thank you so much, Denise, for having me and giving me the opportunity to share information on this wonderful event. This will be our 3rd annual homeownership fair, and we're so excited to welcome all of the residents of DC to come to the MLK Memorial Library on 901 G Street Northwest on June 13th from 10 to 3. We have a whole host of professionals who are across the housing ecosystem who are ready and able to provide information to help prospective home buyers kind of address some of their questions before dipping their toe into the pool of home ownership. We have panels that are going to be set up. Our illustrious leader, Christopher Donald, our executive director and CEO, will be there as well on site in the afternoon to share the good news of all the good work that we're doing at DCHFA. But also we'll have a homebuyer class that'll be offered by Carmelita Turner, who is our business development and outreach manager. She's done amazing work across the district, sharing the good news of what we're doing to promote homeownership. And she'll actually be doing a homeownership class there. We're also going to be partnering with our friends at DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development for the District of Columbia. And they'll also be doing some sessions talking about down payment resources through HPAP, as well as their rehab program. So we have a host of things to cover. And also, we're going to have an exhibitor hall with maybe about 30 or more exhibitors who'll be able to share information and resources to help residents become homeowners.
Julianne, we're in an election season, and I'm not asking you to talk politics, but I am curious because one of the big issues in the upcoming election is housing, affordable housing, and home ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And not only in the District of Columbia, but across the country, we're seeing that home ownership is becoming less accessible, particularly for millennials and Gen Zs and what have you, and almost to the point where some are saying that they're losing hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is home ownership still accessible in the district, and how do you think this home ownership fair will help to make things easier for those who are looking, especially to buy that first home?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question. And I'm glad that you're highlighting the younger population that is interested in purchasing a home, but feels a little bit of resistance and some hesitance in order to get in there. We are very intentional at DCHFA to acknowledge that a lot of the young borrowers that we are, or buyers that we're asking to join the homeownership movement, are the children of people who lost their homes during the housing crisis. They may have been very young, but they may have been old enough to understand that something was wrong. And as time has gone on, and of course the echo chamber of information that was, enveloping everyone during the housing crisis, there's almost a stigma that might be in the DNA of some of the younger borrowers today that makes them say, you know what, is it really safe? And they might not even be able to identify where that point of resistance is. But we are very intentional at DCHFA of being empathetic to the fact that there are a lot of communities that were hurt in 2008, and to invite new and young buyers to say, come on in and buy your first home, when their introduction to homeownership may have been their mom or their dad or their parents at the kitchen table crying over a mortgage statement that they couldn't pay. It's important to be sensitive as practitioners in this space to acknowledge that. And the only way that you can do that is through transparency and education. And it's so important and I can't talk enough about homebuyer education and housing counseling, and how receiving that information before you start the process is so critical, because it creates empowerment. You mentioned empowerment in your opening, Denise, that is what it's all about. And going into a transaction this large, of that magnitude, with all of the information that you have or can receive, moves a new buyer from asking and deferring their power, right, by saying, what should I have, to coming into the transaction saying, this is what I want. And that creates a different type of ownership, and it relinquishes it stops that vulnerability that so many young buyers feel when they're entering the process, when they have the information they need to make an informed decision.
And I want to flip that, because I'm my first entree into home ownership was a condo that I bought over here in Ward 8,
Okay.
which I could barely afford, and it was only $36,000.
Yeah.
But I took that leap, at what, almost 30 years old, to purchase. Um, and then eventually got married, bought a home, and thought, okay, this is the starter home, but I must be still starting because I'm still in the state.
Right.
But they say, I think I've read also that uh, boomers are also buying, and maybe
Absolutely.
because they have, more disposable income now? What's happening? So, I mean, generationally, how will this fair address that group?
Absolutely. And the information that we will be sharing is also a new program that we've introduced. It's called Home Advantage DC.
Mm,
That is a tax exempt mortgage revenue bond program. And what that basically means is that we're able to offer first mortgages at below market rate. The rates are extremely competitive, which will make it easier for buyers who may be on fixed income to be able to afford a mortgage. And in addition to that product, not only are the interest rates significantly lower than the market, we also provide down payment assistance to address that initial barrier of having the money. You can have everything else, but if you don't have the minimum requirement in order to fund that mortgage, that can be a huge barrier, particularly for underserved communities. So not only do we provide the affordable first mortgage, we also allow down payment assistance. And we wanted to make sure that buyers are able to make that mortgage as affordable as possible. So even if there is another down payment resource that's available either through your employer or our partners over at DHCD that offer HPAP, you can couple different down payment resources in conjunction with our down payment and the affordable first mortgage. So it creates that trifecta of affordability that we're trying to provide for district residents. And to your point, Denise, we have some borrowers who are coming through the door who are more seasoned and are saying, you know what, maybe I need to downsize from the current home that I'm in, or this is my first time seeking home ownership. We also provide and require for our program first time home buyer counseling and education in order to be eligible for that product. Because as I mentioned, we don't want people to just buy a house. We want them to be able to stay in it. And it's so important to make sure that they not only know the resources to make an informed decision in order to qualify for the mortgage, but have the tools and the resources available that if life starts lifing and
mhm.
hardships
Well,
happen, we want to make sure that they have those tools as well to know who to call should something take place and a financial hardship happen in the future.
I talked about the fact, and that's all great news, and we're so glad that you are here sharing that with us.
Mhm.
I notice sometimes, you can try to get a horse to water, as they say, but you can't make them drink. But
Yeah.
sometimes, are complain about what we don't have when there are resources available for us to
Hmm.
take advantage of.
Hmm.
And are you finding that people, are really tapping into the resources that you all are providing? And who do you want to have at this fair? I mean, why is it important for them to come?
Yes. Well, it's open to everyone. Anyone who is interested in home ownership, whether it's in the near future or if they're preparing for next year, or maybe, we're having conversations about students who are graduating from college and maybe they're interested in purchasing their first condo and not knowing if it's going to be the starter or the home that they, create memories and families in. We have information for everybody. And it's really important for people to understand. That's why we wanted to make it free. We already are talking about the barriers to home ownership that are expensive. Information should not be free. I mean, you shouldn't have to pay for it. Information should be free. So we don't want to create another barrier for
Right.
people to be able to get information. And that's the reason why it was very important to us that the fair is free and easily accessible for everyone. And yes, we are seeing people participate in a lot of our programs and expressing interest. I can say, and I might be a little bit biased, but I feel like I have one of the best teams in the single family programs division. These are folks who work so hard to make sure that the resources that are available are accurate, clear, easy to understand. So our partners are able to do business with us easily, which ultimately means that it's easy for buyers to do business with them. We want to make sure that, the information on our website is easily accessible and also that we're visible in the communities, which we have been. So, we want to make sure that they don't have to go dig for the information. And that in and of itself can be onerous. It can be overwhelming to say, where do I even start? But that's why we want to be a one-stop shop, that even if we don't offer it, we have the network that's available to direct interested buyers into where to go to get that information. And that's so important to us. And I wanted to really quickly address something that you said about, um, easing some of that anxiety and that concern and skepticism. Empathy is necessary right now in the housing industry, in the housing market, because people have been hurt in the past. And
Mm.
there's so many other factors that are happening in the economy, but housing is the bedrock of that. And if the housing industry isn't healthy and strong, all other things peril. And I tell people all the time that housing is healthcare. And it is very important because it dictates how long it takes for you to get to a hospital if emergency happens. It creates stability for households and young children so that they can have a firm foundation and a safe place to live and to study. So those are the things that are so important to us. But I constantly want to impress upon our partners in the industry that it takes heart and it takes compassion to do this, because
Right.
while it might be familiar for us, it's foreign for a lot of folks who are interested in buying their first home.
Oh yeah, it's a big step. And when you I know you didn't mean to say it, but I can make it right when you say information should not be
It
free.
should be free, should be free.
But saying it should not be free still works because
Hmm.
you're going to have to give, right?
Hmm.
Give up your time. You're going to have to give up your fears. You're going to have to give
Hmm.
something to get this information.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's not a price tag to it. There
Exactly.
is a cost, and that's the cost of what you want to contribute to your own life,
Hmm.
quality of life, to get this
Hmm.
information. So
Hmm. And I'll piggyback on that and say that it is an investment. That
exactly.
it is an investment. So it is absolutely not free because you must invest in the process, and that starts with your time. And that's why we hope everybody will be able to join us on June 13th.
And when we talk about, sort of closing the wealth gap, I want to talk about that a little bit too, because that's what this investment is supposed to do.
Hmm.
If it goes the right way, right?
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
I mean, in talking about generational wealth, we've had years of conversation about that. But
Hmm. Hmm.
how do you see this contributing to that?
Absolutely. And despite what a lot of people say, homeownership is still the best investment you can make in order to create generational wealth. Yes, the cost of living has increased, the cost of production for housing has increased, but that's the reason why we are trying to put as many tools in place, like down payment assistance, to create that equity. When you have, down payment assistance programs that are available here in the district, while they help you get into the door, there will be affordability periods. There are typically some stipulations, and that you have to keep the home for a certain amount of time. But you are still not only achieving home ownership, you're also going to have appreciation, which creates equity, which is what it leads to generational wealth. We provide that down payment assistance that will help you get into the door. That will be forgiven at the end of the loan or deferred. So those are things that will help buyers understand that to get into the house is the first step. But just as housing costs are rising, for a lot of people, they are generating equity at the same time, which creates the equity that can either be used to start that new business. It can be used to help send children to college. It can be kept into the house that, whenever it's time for the next generation to move into it, there's going to be equity there to make improvements. For folks who are aging in place, having that equity that's there can help make it more accessible. If, for example, you're no longer as mobile as you used to be,
Mhm.
these are the resources that are available that will be able to help make the house not only safe and affordable, but accessible for you throughout the different life stages that folks go through. So I have a slogan that's put on my dry erase board that I look at every morning before I get started at work that says the decisions that we make in this office will impact generations.
Mm.
So it reminds us and roots us in the fact that these are not just transactions, but these are lives and generations that will be impacted. Curses will be broken. And it is opening up levels of opportunity that folks never thought would be possible. So, even one loan that closes for us, we know that we have created opportunities that didn't exist, and that their children's children's children will hopefully benefit from what we've done in order to make homeownership accessible.
Well, I can't say anything to follow that except amen. But but I want you to give us one more, just briefly again. We're going to put the flyer up. Give us
Yes.
details about the fair on the 13th. And
Yes.
date, time, location, all of that, please.
Yes, again, it is the DCHFA Homeownership Fair. It'll be held from 10 to 3 next Saturday, June 13th, at the Martin Luther King Memorial Library. That's 901 G Street Northwest. And come bright and early. We'll have a little bite for you to eat as well with your registration. So know we got everything covered, and we look forward to meeting you and answering any questions. And I just want your viewers and your listeners to understand, Denise, that it does take a village, and we're happy to be a part of that village at DCHFA.
Now we have on the flyer to register, and we also have the email address and the website. But if someone forgets or doesn't neglects to register in advance, can they still
Yes,
attend?
and still show up, still show up, because we want to do everything that we can in order to accommodate people who want to receive information. But to ensure that we have enough resources, it's always best to have a head count because we don't want folks to leave empty-handed as well. So the earlier that you can, in order to go to that link that you just mentioned, Denise, at homeownershipdc.eventbrite.com. Again, it's free. So just go ahead and register so we can make space for you to make sure that you are able to have the resources that you need should you show up. So while you can listen to the information, if we're able to have space and capacity, we want to make sure you have materials to take with you as well, so you can be informed and give you a little something to read when you get back home after the fair.
Wonderful. Julienne Joseph, Senior Vice President of a Single Family Program, DC Housing Finance Agency. Thank you so very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Denise. Take
All right.
care.
Good one.
Bye-bye.
So we're going to turn to something else that should make us feel a little good. I'm going to open up with some sounds from Black Alley, and then turn to Cameron Poles, Chief Dot Connector of Black Alley Band. Don't go away. Oops, sorry about that. Cameron Poles, Chief Dot Connector of Black Alley Band. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Denise. It's an honor to be here with you.
Yeah, and the kick off Black Music Month. This is for DC. This is very special because go-go is our official music, and your band helped to make that happen.
Yeah, yeah, we're very proud of it. It was certainly more than just, one person or one band that worked to make that a reality, but we are proud. I went to who was then the Ward 5 council member, Kenyon McDuffie, with the idea to put something on the books. I recognized how, even though go-go originated here in DC, it was the soundtrack to the city, we were definitely sort of being pushed out, marginalized in our own city. And I just had the idea. I saw with jazz, HR 57, they had like some legislation that made jazz an official part of American art, and so I had the idea, well, what if we did something like that for go-go music here in DC, something official to have it on the books. And my thinking was that if we did that, it would make it extremely hard, if not impossible, for the erasure of the music and the culture to continue, along that trajectory. So Kenyon McDuffie not only heard me, picked up the mantle, ran with it, and worked with Don't Mute DC and Long Live Go-Go, and he became officially recognized as the music of Washington, D.C.
Well, I go back. I've been going back a lot on this show, but I go back to Charles Stevenson. who really, I think, wrote a textbook on go-go for the schools. And, just there's, like you said, there've been a lot of people who have invested time and energy into DC's music. And so, to turn this advocacy into legislation on your part, it was just, I think, amazing. It was just a wonderful. There's a word I want to use to describe you, but you did it, and what it protects the music going forward. But what else has it done for go-go?
Yeah, so one of the ways that I frame my work and advocacy is to preserve and advance the culture. So the legislation was not only about preservation, of what we've already done here in the city with the music and with the legends, the foundation that they laid, the Chuck Browns, the Red Essence, the Trouble Funk, the EUs, that not only honor the foundation that they laid, but also have resources in place to, advance the culture, to make sure it evolves and adapts so that it can continue to feed and be a lifeline of communication and connection, for our people here in the city. Ron Moden, Dr. Natalie Hopkinson, they are, the Don't Mute DC campaign. They were instrumental in sort of, taking what we did with the legislation. My thing was about protecting, preserving, and advancing. They were like, well, in order to advance, legislation is nothing without funding. So, they were the ones who sort of put that pressure, on, the elected officials in the city to say, listen, it's one thing to support it in name; it's another thing to support it with actual resources.
Right.
And so those resources have been in place since the adoption of the music as the official music of DC, and it's critical. It's things have to be properly resourced if you are true and sincere about supporting them.
Right. Uh, you know, um, go-go. I don't know how to properly describe it when the music first started, right? Other than it was, local, maybe Southeast, no, but it's global now. I mean, I believe it was the Grammys, right, where go-go was recognized. The bands are traveling around the world playing go-go music, which says a lot for the District of Columbia and it being a destination for travelers. And now you're even involved in other issues like environmental issues. There are other things that you're doing with the genre, to expand its reach. And talk a little bit about that, if you would, about the how you've reached into that environmental sustainability playground. What do you
Yeah,
all?
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So for me, a little bit to sort of tie it all together, like there's absolutely a specific history in terms of the founding and the formation of go-go, but and I don't want to minimize that at all. What Chuck Brown and Red Essence did to sort of create the music, but the way it sort of like things, there are facts and then there are narrative that sort of get to the truth of it, right? There's a narrative that gets to the truth of it. And so the narrative that I have come to believe that's true in terms of what go-go is and how it started is that here in DC, this is like really probably the only place that I know in this country that had like a black mayor, a black superintendent of schools, a black police chief. Like my principal and all of my teachers were black at River Terrace Elementary School, right? And it's like DC is sort of this. It was like this burgeoning sort of mecca of black excellence. The original Chocolate City, right? This mecca of black excellence, and go-go was the soundtrack of that Black excellence,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think over time, it went from sort of, uh, the soundtrack to Black excellence to sort of being this cohesive connection as we race against being marginalized, gentrification and all of that. It became sort of a pocket of resistance, right? And so I think that narrative, you know, it resonates with people around the world. People outside of this country understand how, different cultural forces and economic forces really try to come in and sort of take over,
Right.
their traditional ways of life,
Right.
right? And so I think that, you know, we, unlike other African American art forms like jazz and hip hop, you can sort of export the music, right? I personally have not found that I can be successful exporting go-go music. What I find to be successful is exporting the experience and the story of what go-go is to our people here in DC,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think that is how we've been able to get traction. That's how Black Alley has been able to get traction globally. And then for me, it was also just sort of a natural, um, you know, looking at those experiences, having gone through those experiences overseas, those cultural collaborations and exchanges, and seeing how people are living in developing countries, and then some countries that are beyond the development phase, but still sort of hold on to more of their traditional cultures. I think just like you see the expansion of globalization, it's sort of taking away, making things go extinct, life forms and trees and things, things getting torn down so that to build up in the name of progress, right? Um,
So how
that
is Black Valley putting its stamp on that? What is it? What
Yeah,
are you all doing to put your stamp on, sustainability?
yeah. So for me, is sort of connecting those dots. Go-go is hyper regional, number one, which sometimes people look at that as like some sort of deficiency or failing because we're not billionaires like we don't have these moguls like hip hop does, right? But I think that I'm trying to explain this like in terms of how we put our stamp on it. For me, it is like a blueprint of how we sort of sustain and get back. So the music is almost like a metaphor or an example of how you can exist, uh, how you can exist and thrive without having to extract so much from the environment, without having to constantly
Get it?
grow and extract,
Right.
right?
I get
And
it. Hmm.
so we not only is it sort of like this obscure metaphor, like we're trying to really bring that to life in terms of like even like our merch. Like we have the recycle bin merch lines. So instead of like creating all of these, putting more pressure on the environment, more creating more waste and more pollution, like they're already like incredibly dope clothes that are already made. So why don't we just put our recycle bin logo on clothes that already exist, right?
Oh,
Things
yeah.
that people have already in their closet, right?
Right.
So,
As
you
opposed
know,
to ending up in landfills.
yeah, right.
Right.
So, different things like that. So those are some of the like tangible things, but I think more importantly, it's just sort of helping people realize that it is cool to just sort of regenerate and reuse and recycle. Like most art that we think is brilliant and beautiful is recycled. Like my favorite Michael Jackson song is Human Nature, and that is a cover song, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like just sort of getting it in our minds that, life is not really about constantly chasing something that you don't have or something that is new, purchasing something that is new. It is about appreciating what you have, reinterpreting it, and reimagining it so that you can use it for your time and your people and the challenges that you and your communities face now.
I think that's an excellent message to get across to the followers of Black Alley and to the community at large. And I'm curious if how go-go or how Black Alley's music is transcending generations. I mean, folks have grown up on the music, and a lot of the followers are, you know, older now. I mean, is the younger generation adopting it as well? Is it as popular with, let's say, teens? I know they go out, but do they understand the history and the of the music and have an appreciation as much as their parents may? Do you
Yeah,
understand?
no, I think that is definitely a challenge. I think we're making progress. There's a definitely intentional effort by us and then some of the older heads and go to have that intergenerational exchange and keep the music alive, keep the culture alive. But it is a challenge. I think ever since I was just having a conversation the other day, I think with the advent of the internet, right? One of the probably unforeseen consequences or products of the internet is sort of this homogenization of culture. So when I was young, um, every like DC had its own slang, its own music in terms of go-go, its own fashion, like with Madness and DDTP, and it was like we were so self-contained in what we felt was cool and like our sort of markers of success and cool. And it's like everywhere you had pockets of black people, that was the case. So Philly had their own slang and style, and Detroit, and then down south in Memphis and Atlanta and Dallas, and then of course the West Coast had their thing going on. But once YouTube and social media came about, it's like all black children from all over the country started sort of seeing the same sort of music and the same fashions and the same songs. So now you have all of our kids, no matter what city you're from, speaking the same little five little slang words, or the same
Right.
little five dances that they see on TikTok, or the same, same fashion. Like they all dress the
Yeah.
same and had the
Oh,
same little movements when they showing off the money, right?
right,
So
right.
the internet has really sort of had this homogenizing effect on black culture.
Interesting.
But I think that we recognize that, some of the older artists and go, the people who truly love it and live it, we recognize that. And I think we are making progress and definitely being intentional about sort of revitalizing this sense of pride and belonging in region. It's not about excluding or
Right.
thinking that you are on you and your people and your way is only the best way. It's not about that, but it is about sort of having a level of pride in the ways that you and your people, your black community in your particular neck of the woods finds ways to express the soul of black folk that reverberate throughout the continent and the diaspora.
Yeah, I think that's important. And you go to places like New Orleans and, like you said, other places around the country where they've got this distinguishable sound that's just kind of existed through generations. And I think that's what the mission is
Mhm.
for Go-Go. It's Black Music Month. What's Black Alley doing? And tell me, what is a dot connector?
Yeah, so it's like the chief dot connector. It's just a little something that I came up with because it's like even like throughout this conversation, it's like what I have done for the band. I've written songs, and I do some of the more traditional stuff that a manager would do. But then I also just sort of like connect these dots between like community work and
I like
the
that. I
importance,
like that.
the music. So I mean, just a dot connector. It's like putting a cool little thing on, just wearing many hats and doing whatever it takes to get stuff done.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. based on what I've seen you do,
Mhm.
you are the chief. And so, before we close, anything coming up through the month of June in celebration of Black Music Month that Black Alley will be sharing with the public?
Yeah, absolutely. So June 13th, we are at Charles County Fairgrounds for the Cooling You Wine Festival, which is a celebration of just black music, all different types of black music.
Wow.
June 19th at Anacostia Museum in the National Harbor. June 20th at Black Rock in Germantown. We're celebrating Juneteenth all weekend, which is that's like the ultimate mashup right there. Juneteenth and Black Music Month. Hey, you just can't even hardly get no blacker than that, which is
Right.
always a beautiful time. And then, again, like that first show on June 19th is at the Anacostia Museum. That's special for us, to, play in our neighborhood, in our city,
Right.
And then in June 27th, our sort of like our second home, Penn Social, where we do quarterly shows. June 27th at Penn Social is pretty cool. And then beyond Black Music Month, beyond June, we have the Bahama Breeze coming up. So if anybody wants to travel to the Bahamas with Black Alley, we play. It's a sort of like a festival from the 13th through the 17th, but we play on Saturday, August 15th. It'll be Black Alley and Floor Tree, uh, and then at the Atlantis Hotel and Resort in the Bahamas. So,
Wow, that sounds
um,
like a party.
yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. You're celebrating the 250th. You all celebrating. All right.
Easy.
Anyway, Cam, thank you so much for being with us, for sharing, sort of the story behind the music. And I think people need to know that, and just appreciate what you do to keep DC being DC. It is. We got cherry blossom trees and what is it? Frederick Douglass Home and other things, and we got go-go music, right? Malcolm X Park, all those places
Mhm.
playing, been there. So thanks a lot for being us, representing us, and we
Yeah.
appreciate all that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Denise, for all the years of service and platform and amplifying voices and giving us the independent news that we need. That is more important than ever. And anything that Black Alley can do, anything I can do personally and Black Alley can do to ensure the continuation of the treasure and institution that the Washington Informer is, please do not hesitate to let me know.
I will not hesitate to let you know.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'll just say share this with your folks, especially those young folks, because we're trying to share the music, we're trying to share the information. We got to let them know that DC has some great things. This is our community, this is ours, and we've got to protect and sustain it. So we're in this together.
Absolutely.
All righty, have a good one.
You too.
All right. So that was good. I mean, I've really appreciated the work that Cam has been doing, and again, it's not just the music, but it's the message. It's the message, and I think that's what he shared with us. And speaking of messages, that's why I'm excited to talk to a valedictorian, one of seven, from Spelman College, Alyssa Richardson, who was a member of the 2026 Spelman College class. She was a valedictorian, and joining her in our conversation today is her mom, Dr. Hazel Richardson, who happens also to be a managed care pharmacist. And I'm saying entrepreneur, but she a businesswoman. She takes care of business at home and in the business. So I want to welcome both of you all to Let's Talk.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
having us here today.
Yeah, Alyssa, I am so proud of you. We're also proud of you.
Thank you.
So you just graduated from Spelman. Your major was,
Biochemistry.
ah, I wonder how you decided upon that.
Actually, my mom was a chemistry major, and I always just loved the sciences. And also, I knew I wanted to go into healthcare, and biochemistry is a huge part of that. And so it just all kind of fit together.
Wow, that's amazing. And going back, you called Spelman. It's Black Girl Disneyland. But this is the first time in 144 years that there were 7 of you all who served as valedictorians in a single class. What did that mean to you?
It meant so much to me to be able to share that honor with, six other of my Spelman sisters. Of course, when you're going through your journey, you're not going around asking people, what's your GPA? So you're just kind of going through life and trying to do the best at what you can with what you have. And so when I was notified that I had been, distinguished as valedictorian along with 6 other people, I was like, this is really a testament to what Spelman represents. Spelman, beyond being an academic institution, is a sisterhood. And so being able to just embark in this journey of excellence with my sisters, it really shows me just how important Spelman is, especially in the current climate that we're living in. It's amazing. We have a tradition called Class Day at Spelman, and that's when our class kind of comes together and honors the class. We had some musical performances, we had some poetry, and we also get to walk under the historic Spelman Arch at Spelman. And so during that, the valedictorians always deliver the Ivy oration, where we kind of liken the class to the development of an ivy plant. And so I spoke about how, one of the parts of the development of an ivy is spreading, and how the ivies kind of spread all over. When you see ivy plants, they're all over the place. And so I really feel like the class of 2026 has been able to spread the excellence of being valedictorian. And I think that's amazing, that as we continue to spread into the all 4 corners of the earth, all the different continents, all the different disciplines and professions, that we'll be able to have each other and remember that we're never alone as we, make our choice to change the world, which is our slogan at Spelman.
So before I turn to your mom, I just want to ask you one question, and I don't want to assume that everybody that's watching Let's Talk knows what it means to become a valedictorian. So explain that.
Yes. So, every institution has different criteria. At Spelman College, to be a valedictorian means that you have the highest GPA. And so we're on a 4-point scale. And so,
grade point average.
Yes, grade
Correct.
point average. Yes.
Okay.
So at Spelman College, you have the highest GPA, grade point average out of our 4-point scale. And so all 7 of us had a 4.0 out of a 4.0 grade point average. And that's what it means to be a valedictorian. It means you got all A's in all your classes. Perfect GPA.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations to you. Congratulations, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
When Alyssa was going to go to college, I mean, you had a lot of choices, because I'm going to assume that she was a pretty good student, high school student as well. So how was it that you selected, or she selected, Spelman, and you said, okay?
Listen, this is a good question, because as an Eagle myself, from who graduated from North Carolina Central University, my heart was shattered when she chose to not go to my alma mater. However, Alyssa is a product of DCPS. So she graduated from Duke Ellington School of the Arts, where she was a stellar student. She graduated the #1 in her department, with the highest GPA there as well. How did she decide on Spelman? Listen, and this is advice that I give other parents. Sometimes it's about following the money. She was accepted to every college she applied for.
Oh.
However, Spelman was the first to say, we want you and we are going to give you a full scholarship. That full scholarship sealed the deal. Once they said, we've got you for 4 years, Mom said, okay, we can do Spelman, even though it's very far and it's really tough to, separate for that amount of time. Alyssa is very brave, and I knew she could handle herself. And so that's how we decided on Spelman.
Wow. And I mean, of course, Spelman's in Atlanta, all girls. I'm confused sometimes about how Spelman and Morehouse and some of the other universities in the, what do you call it, the university?
The Atlanta, yeah. So Spelman College, Morehouse College, Clark Atlanta University, Morris Brown College, and Morehouse School of Medicine are all a part of the Atlanta University Consortium, or for short, we call it the AUC. We actually all share a library. Our campuses are literally across the street from each other. Like, you don't even have to drive. We walk to and from. We eat at each other's dining halls. We take classes at each other's schools. So we're all a part of the same consortium. Spelman and Morehouse have a brotherhood, sisterhood relationship. And so we do a lot of campus things, including our homecoming together. Morehouse is like cheerleaders, and, you know, the dancers and the band all come from Spelman College. The queen of Morehouse is usually a Spelman student. So we do a lot of things together, and it kind of gives you a co-ed experience while still being able to have the sacred, you know, historical experience of going to an all women's college or all male college.
So that, thanks for explaining that. I appreciate that, because I, you know, like you said, Dr. Richardson, people are looking at where they're going to send their kids to college, and some don't want them to go far away, and kind of what that transition is going to look like. Alyssa was able to handle that, and she's still not, she may be home now, but she's not going to be home for long, because you are going to, is it Perelman School of Medicine?
Yes, Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania.
A full ride.
Yes, on the full ride. And it's amazing because this is actually the first medical college in the entire country. UPenn has the oldest hospital in the country as well. And it's an Ivy League institution. So there's an array of just, you know, opportunities and resources. And to be able to go from the number one HBCU to the first medical school on a full ride, Ivy League institution, it really just shows that HBCUs are able to produce people who can go into their respective fields and be at the top of it and do well, even while being in a place where race and even gender in Spelman's case are not a factor, even when we're not dealing with that intersectionality. So I think it's amazing.
So what's your goal? What do you want to do with all of this education? What do you want to do professionally?
Yes, so I'm going to be getting my Doctor of Medicine to be a physician. And right now, I'm really interested in women's health. So I would love to be an OBGYN. I know a lot of, you know, people who are currently in medical school say they go into medical school wanting to be a specific specialty. Maybe they wanted to be a cardiologist, or they wanted to be a pediatrician, but they may come out doing something totally different. So my, you know, I'm very open. I have an open mind, open heart. But as of now, I'm very interested in OBGYN, and looking at, you know, reproductive justice and kind of, you know, fertility and infertility, especially when it comes to women of color.
Wow, Dr. Richardson, you know, you probably had your own path, and you probably shared a lot of that with Alyssa as well. I mean, here, you know, you are in pharmacy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your path, which may have influenced her path. You know, my daddy, I'm going to say this really quick, but my daddy used to say, you know, doctors beget doctors, lawyers beget lawyers, blah, blah, blah. And I used to wonder, what does beget mean? But I understand it because I see it, see it more. And so you begot another medical profession, but how did you become one?
Listen, as a North Carolinian, that's where I started in North Carolina. We say the apple don't fall far from the tree. So I never had any intention or any anticipation for her to do what I did. But yes, you're absolutely right. She knows my journey. Like me, Alyssa and I are both artists. So she's a singer and a dancer, as am I. My dance teacher was like Hazel. Great dancer, but where are you going to work? What do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I never thought about it. My dance teacher allowed me to meet her friend who owned a pharmacy, and I shadowed her. I worked back there with her, and I said, oh, I'm going to learn to do this. Coming from a disadvantaged sort of background, I didn't have exposure to people in that profession before. So I leaned on those resources to learn the next steps. Like, how do I get here? How do I become a pharmacist? So that pharmacy owner told me, hey, you should go to UNC Chapel Hill. I applied to UNC Chapel Hill, got in UNC Chapel Hill, but I said, wait a minute, I would love to go to a HBCU. And so I found out that my school, North Carolina Central University, had a partnership with Howard University School of Pharmacy. I didn't end up going to Howard University School of Pharmacy, but that's what took me to my school. I started with that program. And yeah, that's how I decided to become a pharmacist. So I received finally my doctor of pharmacy degree from UNC Chapel Hill. I stayed close to home, and that's been my path. I was recruited to move up here to DC, to work for a company that was a great part of my career, and I now work for the federal government. But that's how my path went.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So, Alyssa, did you ever, like go to work with your mom and see kind of what she was doing, like she did, like she shadowed someone? Did you ever shadow her?
Yes. And so, I've been in application mode for the past, years. I've been, answering some of these types of questions like why medicine, why healthcare. And so, it always goes back to being a child and being able to see how interdisciplinary healthcare is, seeing nurse practitioners and pharmacists and physicians come together for the well being of one person. And I always thought that was so amazing. Like, people are calling back and forth, people are faxing in this, they're trying to get in touch with the doctor. And it's so much going on, but so much intelligence and so much wisdom going into the well-being of someone. And so that is really what sparked my interest in medicine. And from there, I was just like, what approach do I want to take? Do I want to be a pharmacist? Do I want to be, a physician? Do I want to be a physician associate, a PA, maybe a nurse practitioner? And so I think being in DC, which is Chocolate City, and growing up having a bunch of Black, providers, from my pediatrician to my dentist to my orthodontist,
Wow.
I knew that the sky was not only the limit, but it was the view for me. And so I knew that it was never a question for my self-image what I could be. It was just like, what's your favorite thing? And so I chose medicine to be a physician.
So before we close, Alyssa, there are a lot of young folks like you who, graduating from high school and trying to figure out what's next, or know that they're rising seniors in high school and they're trying to figure out what's next. What advice would you give, especially that high school student that's got to make a decision and still, where to go to school, if they should go to school, what should they major in? I'm sure you went through all that. So what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I would definitely tell them, and it kind of varies. I think the first thing is to figure out what your goal is. What is your mission? Is your mission to be socially mobile? Do you want to maybe, jump from one class to another? Are you in a place where you're disadvantaged, or are you in a place where I think first you have to assess your surroundings and your specific situation. Then I think that it's important to know what you enjoy doing and how you can make a lifestyle out of it, and make sure that the lifestyle that you would like aligns with the career path that you want. I will also say to reach out to people who are doing the things that you see yourself doing, or surround yourself with people who also want to do those things, again, because half of the battle is self-image, half of the battle is just believing and knowing that you can, because you don't have time in college to question yourself or question your worth. Like, if you want to do well, like you have so many assignments, you can't sit around every night saying, I don't know if I can do this, So, I think part of that is just really engraving yourself into that environment. So yeah, I think assessing, like, what are your goals? What type of lifestyle do you want, and what do you enjoy doing? And also, what are you good at doing? What can you stand doing for a little bit to build a foundation, to build a nest egg, so that you can go and do what your passion is.
Right.
And you stand being an accountant for a few years so that you can go on and be a collect art later. Like, what are you willing to do? So I think that's where I would tell people to do.
And Mom, I'm coming to you last, because there are a lot of parents that are, trying to figure out, either I can't afford it, this person won't listen to me, I've never been to college, I don't know what to tell them to do, I don't have any advice for them, or I've been to college and I want them to go here and they want to go there. What advice would you give to parents who have especially high school students that are about to make that transition?
I want to first say that empty nesting is a trick, it's a scheme, it's a scam. There's no empty nesting, so be prepared to support your student through high school and through that next phase. I would also say, starting no later than the 10th grade, applying to scholarships, grants, fellowships is a second job. It's a job. If you can afford for your child to not work a job, I know everybody's situation is different. That has to be homework after homework. It starts 10th grade. Start applying to scholarships. We want to be able to make sure that our children can go to the schools they want to go to and, be able to do so debt free in a way. If you don't have, like Alyssa mentioned, if you don't have experience, with the higher education or things like that, there are always mentors who are willing to reach to work with your students. So if once you talk with your child and you learn that they are really interested in whatever college, find somebody that went there. Ask people at your church or whatever networks, do you know anyone that graduated from this school, and let them work with your child to help them get where they're going. But always remember that you're going to be supporting the child emotionally, a lot of times financially still, all the way through college. It's not just, yay, they gone. It's a new skill, and it took me by surprise. So I'm sharing it with everybody who asked. It took me by surprise because I was like, well, I didn't realize I'd have to become a life coach. You know what I mean? I know how to chauffeur, and I can cook dinner, and I can, help with some things, but I didn't realize I'd have to go on to this next phase. So that's the next phase, parents. And it doesn't mean you have to have all the answers, but know where to get them. And so reach your networks. Yes, ma'am.
Amazing. Well, I definitely am congratulating Alyssa and your 6 classmates who are representing Spelman first in 144 years, all to be valedictorians in the class of 2026. Congratulations to you, and congratulations to you too, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, you all have a great day, and we'll see you when you finish medical school, because we need to know where you're setting up your office, Alyssa, the other Dr. Richardson, so that we'll know where to come when we need medical attention. So,
thank you so much for having us. Have a great rest of your day.
My pleasure. Thank you so much as well. Have a good one. So that brings us to the close of another hour or more of Let's Talk here on WIN TV. This week, we kicked off June of Homeownership Month with Julienne Joseph from the DC Housing Finance Agency. And if you missed it, their homeownership fair is coming up on Saturday, June 13th at the Martin Luther King Library. So make sure you get there. If you're interested, have any questions about homeownership, please go to the Martin Luther King Library. Ms. Joseph explained that they have so much to share, and they want to see you to make your homeownership dream come true. Then for Black Music Month, we sat down with Cam Poles, the chief dot connector of Black Alley Band, and how they're turning go-go music into DC's official music. And we didn't talk about scholarships. I guess we could do that the next time we talk to him, but environmental justice and a whole bunch of other stuff that they're involved in. And we certainly do appreciate the work that they're doing to preserve and sustain DC music. And last but not least, of course, we just heard from Alyssa Richardson, one of 7 valedictorians from Spelman College, and her mom, Dr. Richardson, as well, a pharmacist. Great conversation. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you know that this is the place where you can turn for information that's empowering, and just all the wonderful things that we try to do. We want to thank you again for joining us. I'm Denise Rolark Barnes. This has been Let's Talk on WIN TV. We'll be back next week. See you then.